This week, Greg Lisher, Songs from the Imperial Garden.
This is Dee Dee Jackson reading Bobolink. In a meadow as wide as a wound, I thought to stop and study the lesser stitchworts, white flowers, lacing up boot-level grasses, when I was scolded in song by a black and white bird whose wings sipped air, swallow-like, until he landed on the highest tip of Yellow Dock, still singing his beautiful warning, the brown female with him in fear. The warning was real, the anniversary of my husband's suicide. What was the matter with life? Sometimes when wind blows, the meadow moves like an ocean. On that day, I was in its wake. I mean the day in the meadow. I mean the day he died. This is not another suicide poem. This is a poem about a bird I wanted to know, and so I spent that evening looking up his feathers and flight, spent most of the night searching for mating habits and how to describe the yellow nape of his neck like a bit of Gothic stained glass, or the warm brown females with their dark eyeline. How could I have known, like so many species, they too are endangered? God must be exhausted. Those who choose life, those who choose death. That day I braided a few strips of Timothy hay as I waited for the pair to move again, to lift from the field and what? Live? The dead can take a brother, a sister. Not really. The dead have no one. Here in this field, I worried the mowers like giant gorging mouths would soon begin again, and everything would be as it will. I wrote this poem the evening after a hike at the Taconic Mountain Ramble State Park's Japanese Gardens in Humbarton, Vermont. It was July 13th, the anniversary of my late husband's suicide. Each year on that day, I prefer to be outside and in nature if possible. As I passed through a yet-to-be-mowed field, I was scolded by several pairs of bobolinks. I realized they were in fear for their nests. Then I worried about the mower I knew would come through any time. Luckily, the University of Vermont has begun an incentive program to encourage New England farmers to delay their second cutting, so the birds have enough time to breed and raise their young.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Chris?
I'm so glad that you're here at the Lo-Fi Lounge, and during this very odd year, I had the pleasure and was just the joy of picking up your album, your new album, Imperial Gardens. It's an instrumental album. It's almost a rhapsodic in its intent. It has many ravines of lyrical beauty. When did you start working on this album?
I started recording this record with David Immergluck producing in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah, it's way back. Basically, after I did the Strange Change record, I kind of felt like I felt like trying to get a little bit more connected to just the music and put the lyrics and the singer-songwriter thing to the side. Sometimes when I'm like writing songs and writing lyrics and then playing acoustic guitar, it's like somehow the music gets kind of put to the side, and I'm just so focused on fitting lyrics to me playing rhythm guitar. And for some reason I got it in my head. I'm like, I felt somewhat a little disconnected or something, writing songs writing songs with the guitar in a traditional sense, I felt like there was something kind of missing a little bit. I thought, let me take a break from the singer songwriter thing and try to get closer to my heart musically, you know. And then, you know, making instrumental music as well is, you know, when you don't have lyrics, there's other challenges that are involved in making stuff interesting and arrangements and all that stuff. And I kind of really wanted to get into that. I thought I kind of had this idea to do that. 2/3 of the record are all songs that I had written that were laying around. I've got like, you know, hours and hours of me doing 4-track demos. And then also I'd never worked with David Immergluck as a, you know, as a producer on a producer level, with him producing me. I kind of threw this idea out to him, and he said, I love it. I'm into it. Let's do this. He was like, come down to LA, get out of your comfort zone. Let's just, you know, just come down here and let's just work. He, you know, cause he's done so much session work. He's just kind of got this black book, you know, of all these people he meets and connects with. So when it was time, you know, if he had an idea to bring someone in to do something, he just kind of call them up. They come down, you know, session type things, and just come in. And it's like so different from how I was used to working. It's like me and him, you know, we complete our sentences, you know. For me and David, when we're talking, you know, it's really funny. It's like he's kind of like my musical confidant too. It's like he gets me. He knows what I'm trying to do. He's always got cool references. A lot of the stuff that he references, I might not be familiar with. It's kind of interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Because he's a big fan of a bunch of, you know, British blues stuff from the 60s and folk, English folk rock and stuff. And
well, I probably have used Oh Well, a version of Oh Well,
right,
about 4 times. In my show, just because I love the way you guys play it, and you do see that 2-guitar relationship,
and especially the interlocking stuff when we're kind of, it's like talking back and forth, and there's definitely some magic there, I think.
How well recorded, it's just meticulous. The sound, more pure melodic acoustic lines that are just so, I mean, not only they're well played, but they are produced so well that some very, very fine touches that you have there just come right through.
I mean, I was able to get so inside of recording all that guitar stuff too. It's a Martin D28, and I picked up it's a really beautiful sounding guitar.
As you started to do these different styles of music, because you kind of have this acoustic stuff, you even have, I don't know, is like Dance of the Shrews, where there's
kind of Celtic Irish.
So as you started to put these pieces together, did they kind of start lining up into different paths?
It's kind of funny. The other part of the story with this record too, it's like, you know, I somehow feel kind of pigeonholed, that people always think of me as just kind of doing one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, great, you know, lead guitar, or, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Electric guitar. So I think that when I did this, like, I was really trying to drag a big net and really kind of show people that I'm capable of playing many different styles. Like, and I always like records like that. And that's one of the things I liked about Camper, when I first joined Camper, you know, I'm not on the very first record. I joined before it came out, after it was recorded. But one of the things I liked about the band that I was joining was the fact that they had this record and they had all these like kind of, you know, all these different types of songs on it. Like some stuff sounded kind of like folky European folk, and then kind of rock, and there's like some punk, and there's some kind of country, and there's like all kinds of weird stuff. So I kind of felt like when I was putting it together, it's like I really wanted to kind of show people that I'm capable of doing. I'm capable of doing these different things,
right?
And especially as a writer too, you know, like there's some stuff that sounds kind of bluegrass. There's some really folky sounding stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different styles. So I think I kind of intentionally went out of my way to choose these songs that were just everything kind of represented a little something else. It's kind of funny because like David Lowery always said, oh, Greg's like such a chameleon. Like we play, you know, our band does all these different styles. And it's like, I wasn't, you know, I remember when we recorded Sad Lover's Waltz on the second record, you know, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd never played country music in my entire life.
Right.
So in this weird way, you know, I was kind of faking. I was kind of going, well, I think this is kind of what they do in this style of music, but I know that I'm kind of doing it wrong and I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think part of my style probably came from a lot of those experiences. I felt like I never quite sold my soul to that, you know, to those styles. And somewhere along the way, you start kind of grabbing all this stuff and it goes through this blender and it never comes out pure, you know.
Once it goes in that blender, then it comes out as you.
Titles are like super hard for me.
Yeah.
I spend too much time. I get distracted. I start working on other projects. I start doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm always got all these different things that I'm doing. And what I really need to be doing is I really need to be sitting down and focusing on finishing the titles, getting the title of the record, doing all the stuff that you're supposed to do to get stuff out. And it's weird. It's like, I always want to be in the studio. I always want to be, you know, recording or playing, or I really wanted the titles to fit the vibe of the song. Like that's the other thing too. It's like, oh, there's no lyrics to reference for a title. So I'm just going to make a bunch of random stuff. I couldn't do that either. I couldn't just randomly make stupid titles. Right. So I kind of felt like, man, it took me a little longer, you know, I really want these titles to somehow represent the vibe of the music. And it was like, it was hard. So, but in the end, I liked everything. I liked the way it worked.
She's drinking champagne. Got light skin, got assassin eyes, staring into the sapphire painted skies. Wander around, waiting on the last train. Yeah, I'm standing on the gallows with my head in the noose, waiting any second all hell break loose. Crazy, times are strange, locked in tight, out of range. Used to care, but things have changed. place ain't doing me any good. I'm in the wrong town, I should be in Hollywood. Just for a minute there, I thought I saw something move. I'm gonna take dancing lessons, do the jitterbug rag. No shortcuts, gonna dress in drag. Only a fool here think he's got anything to prove. Yeah, a lot of water under the bridge, a lot of other stuff too. Don't get up, gentlemen, I'm only passing through. Yeah, people are crazy, times are strange. Locked in tight, out of range. Used to care, but things have changed. Walking 40 miles of bad road. The world is right, the world will explode. Trying to get away from myself just as far as I can. Some things are too hot to touch. The human mind can only stand so much. You can't win with a losing hand. Yeah, I feel like falling in love. The first woman I met. Put her in a wheelbarrow and wheeling her down the street. Yeah, people are crazy, times are strange. Locked in tight, out of range. Used to care, but things have changed. Hurt someone and not even know it. Hurt someone and not even show it. Trying to get it far away from myself as I can. I'm gonna get down, I'm gonna fly high. All the truth in the world adds up to one big lie. You can't win with a losing hand. Yeah, Mr. Jinx said Miss Lucy jumped in the lake. I ain't that eager to make a mistake. Yeah, people are crazy, times are strange. Locked in tight, out of range. Used to care, but things have changed. Yeah, I used to care. Things have changed.
The Tornadoes from Redlands, California, are members of an elite group of Inland Empire musicians. They are perhaps the only IE band to earn a platinum record for a locally recorded effort. Their story begins in the late 1950s when the Sanders cousins, Norm, aka Rolly, and Jesse, first began developing their chops on the guitar with the idea of forming a band. To complete the group, family friend Leonard Delaney came in to play drums, and Rolly's brother Gerald Sanders joined on bass and vocals. Later, George White was recruited to play saxophone. In early 1962, the band traveled to Riverside to record their first single, Busting Surfboards, at William Losey's recording studio. The A-side was written by Rollie Sanders and Leonard Delaney. They borrowed an Ocean sound effects tape from San Bernardino radio station KFXM to add the distinctive crashing waves heard throughout the single. The B-side was Beyond the Surf. Like the A-side, it was an instrumental. In August 1962, the 45 spent 2 weeks at the #1 position on the KFXM Fabulous 59 survey. It was considered a regional hit. It appeared on the national Billboard singles chart for 6 weeks, peaking at the 102 position. The record went international when it crossed the northern border and released in Canada. The tune crossed the Pacific Ocean and released in Australia on the RCA Records label. It crossed the Atlantic Ocean and released in Italy, with a picture sleeve no less. However, there was a problem on the horizon. In December 1962, a British instrumental group, also called the Tornadoes, scored a U.S. #1 hit with the single Telstar. To avoid any possible confusion, the Redlands Tornadoes changed their name to the Hollywood Tornadoes. Their second single, The Grammy Parts 1 and 2, was released in late 1962 with the band's new name. It was written by Rollie Sanders, Leonard Delaney, and George White. In February 1963, the Hollywood Tornadoes played perhaps one of their biggest Inland Empire concerts. The March of Dimes benefit show and dance was held at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino. They were considered special guest stars, along with such luminaries as the Beach Boys, Jan and Dean, the Rivingtons, and many others. Headlining was Dick Dale and the Deltones. But there were plenty of other IE events that the band played locally. From charities to parties to dances and birthdays, the band played them all. For their third single, the group's management decided that they should record it at Paul Buff's PAL Studios in Cucamonga, California. Buff is seen here on the left. The engineer for those sessions was a young Frank Zappa on the right. Zappa was living in Ontario, apprenticing and working with Buff to learn about the recording industry. The 1963 single contained the song Moondog on the A-side and The Inebriated Surfer on the B-side, written by Rollie Sanders. Once again, the group went under the name The Hollywood Tornadoes. For their fourth single, the group returned to their original name, The Tornadoes. This release was full of controversy. Once again, it was recorded at PAL Studio and engineered by Frank Zappa. It was almost immediately banned from the radio airwaves because of the B-side, Shootin' Beavers. The song itself was a conventional surf instrumental written by Gerald Sanders. However, the single started with Gerald declaring, "Hey, shoot that beaver." In the middle of the 45, George exclaimed, "Hey, bag that pelt." Parents were apparently upset about the title and the phraseology. They complained to radio stations, even though for the most part they weren't even playing the B-side. The Airton label tried to salvage the single by removing the offensive phrases of Shootin' Beavers and retained the original instrumental track. They then retitled the B-side Lightnin'. However, the damage was done and the retooled single was dead on arrival. It was to be the last single to be released by the Tornadoes in the 1960s. Meanwhile, Josie Records released the Tornadoes' first LP in 1963. Today, many critics now consider it to be a classic of the surf instrumental genre. For all intents and purposes, this would normally have been the end of the tale of the Tornadoes because the band had broken up towards the end of the 1960s. But fate was to intervene some 30 years later and continue their story.
I remember you, you're my distant star, deep into your blue, closer where you are. I can hear your words, can't you hear my song? Deep into your blue, I'm back where we belong. I might be only can't dream for days. Days. Can't dream for days. Days. Hold on, secret heart. Words that we could make ring true. Wish that I could start again with you. I remember you standing torn and frayed. Never let you go. Never be afraid. In my golden slumber, you can help me count the ways. 'Cause I can't dream for many words just sleeping. We could take it all away. We can't dream for days. Days. Can't dream for days. Days. Can't dream for days. Days.